Good afternoon. It is now 4 o'clock, which is the appointed hour for our county commission meeting. I'd like to welcome and thank everyone who has taken the time out of their busy agendas and schedules today in order to attend. We will begin this meeting with an invocation followed by a pledge of allegiance. The invocation will be given by Carmela Fitzpatrick of the Unity Center for Positive Living, and our Pledge of Allegiance will be by Emma Johnson, and Emma is a member of the Dixie High School Junior ROTC. We will proceed in that order.
Thank you. We believe in prayer and positive affirmation. So in Thanksgiving, let's begin. Thank you, Father, for these commissioners and the work that they do. Continue to give them the wisdom that is needed with all the many obligations that they have to fulfill each day. And we thank you for continuing to help them to remember to be open and not let their own personal beliefs ever get hold of them. And we thank you for people who come here with the many various ideas and eagerness to continue to help this county grow. We thank you, Father, for any business being brought today and being concise, to the point, and not drawn out so everyone can go home in a happy manner. But thank you, Father, for the people and their ideas on this day. And thank you for the weather. Amen.
Thank you very much.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Emma. Camilla.
Wonderful. It was super. I had a chance last year at about this time to go to a banquet. My wife is on the school board, and it was for the junior ROTC members in the county. And what an amazing group of young people. And it was a bright spot in my day and continues to be a bright spot in my life to see the progress these students are making. Okay.
Our first item on the consent agenda, and the purpose of this is a means of expediting routine matters which come before the commission for approval. The consent portion of the agenda is approved by one non-debatable motion. If there are any commissioners who wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for separate discussion, then that becomes the first item in the regular agenda. Item A is consideration of the auditor approved claims for payment for February 20th, 2019 through March 19th, 2019. B, consideration of regular commission meeting minutes of February 5th, 2019, February 19, 2019, and special commission meeting minutes of February the 25th, 2019. Item C, consideration of administrative adjustments for real property. Item D, consideration of administrative adjustments for personal property. E, consideration of applications for property tax abatement, which there were 4. Item F, consideration of applications for settlement or deferral of property taxes, which were 3 of them. G, consideration of donation of surplus property from Washington County and the Washington County Sheriff's Office to Switchpoint. Item H, consideration of amendment to an agreement between 5 County AOG and Washington County for reimbursement of monies $835,239 for services provided to senior citizens in Washington County by the Council on Aging. item I, which we addressed in a meeting prior, but needed to have a certain amount of time before we could put it again on the consent agenda, is thus. Consideration of approval of equitable sharing agreement and certification between Washington County Sheriff's Office and the U.S. Department of Justice and U.S. Department of the Treasury. Item J, consideration of resolution number R 2019-2427, a resolution amending the boundary of the Hurricane Valley Fire Special Service District to include the area within the Rockville-Springdale Fire Special Service District area. And that was previously discussed and waited the proper time period. Are there any items that would want to be separated from the consent agenda?
I'm okay.
I'm fine, and if that's your motion, I'll make a second.
The motion has been made and seconded to approve today's consent agenda. All in support of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair rules, the motion carries. Regular agenda items for consideration today. Item number 1, introduction of a new assistant and area manager for the Utah State Fire Services Office. Mike, are you going to introduce, or are you going to defer to our, okay, Adam, okay.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. We've had a couple changes, and I think you guys know we've had a vacancy with my assistant position for a while now. So I think we finally found the right person for the job. Still might be a trick for him to find somewhere to live down here, affordable. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, I'm going to help him out, and he's already. This is his second week on the job, so he's picking things up really well. We'll start making it around the county. His name's Joey Rosso, and then the other gentleman is Dannon Hewlett, who's worked for our division for quite a while and in a lot of different positions, both in the fuels program and the forestry program, and now he's our area manager. So I'll let them kind of tell you a little bit about themselves, and we're glad to have them in their positions and on board.
Thank you, Adam.
So I come from Bryan Head, Utah. I was with the fire department there for 7 years, and the opportunity came in this position. So I'm here working with you guys now. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
He was part of the team that saved the town.
The county, yeah, but now it's the county. His vision
Yeah.
has expanded.
Yeah.
Save us all.
Like Adam said, I'm Dannon Hewlett. I'm the new area manager. I started in 2005 with the Division of Forestry, like Adam mentioned, in the fuels program. I bounced around through our forestry program, and now currently the area manager. And I talked to Adam earlier, and it sounds like we have a great relationship with the commissioners and with the county here, and that's good to hear. And I hope that we can continue to strengthen that relationship and do good work as we move forward. Thanks for this opportunity to come and introduce myself.
Thank you, Mr. Hewlett. The county participates with the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands under the Division of Natural Resources in a really collaborative manner, and it's a partnership where we actually pick up part of the salary for these people who are based in Washington County, and of course Danny is over the whole area. But the advantage that comes to us, and this is one of those things that we thought hard about several years ago when we first really went down this path, is there's considerable expense involved in hiring people, but putting fires out that have become established and growing is much, much more expensive. And so having an engine boss and crew and a fire warden located in the county that can react quickly to fires that especially start in the late spring and through the summer and early fall has saved the county a lot of money, and I think it's been a really super investment. So thank you for the partnership and the collaboration.
Yeah, thank all of you. With the moisture, it's fun to see the green hills, but we all know what'll happen about July.
Double-edged sword.
It is a
It
double-edged
is.
sword, so let's hope monsoons come early.
Item number 2 on our agenda is consideration of purchase requests and ratification, and for that, we've asked Ray Boyer to make that presentation.
Hello. The first purchase requisition on the agenda today is for some signs naming the buildings out at Legacy Park, and that's a total of $12,107. The next one is for co-op funding for UK Journalist Project, and a total of $17,500. The next one is a blanket PO for a web contract for tourism in the total of $13,400. Next one is for March Connected TV and Social Campaign with the Utah Office of Tourism for $11,350. The next one is for the Washington County Trail website co-op campaign in a total of $34,844.42. The next one is for a blanket purchase order for the jail for culinary purchases in a total of $35,000. Next one is another blanket PO for the commissary out at the jail for a total of $40,000. Next one is another blanket PO for building and maintenance supplies in a total of $15,000. That is also for the jail. I don't remember saying that part. And then the final one is a ratification of a final payment for a marketing campaign with Utah Office of Tourism in a total of $19,290. They needed that money right away, so we went ahead and paid it, and now we're just ratifying that purchase. Unless there's any questions, that is everything I have.
I've got a question for Brittany. What is a UK Journalist Project? Please.
So the UK Journalist Project is a cooperative project that we did with the Utah Office of Tourism, where we're bringing in 7 journalists from the United Kingdom. They'll come in mostly in the winter months, and they'll write specific stories about things to do outside of Zion National Park in Washington County. So they'll do a comprehensive story, but we kind of are able to focus the target on the time of year and the activities that we want them to focus on, and then it'll go throughout the UK.
I like then that you're leveraging this with the State Office of Tourism
Yes.
for the benefit of our area, probably a little bit surrounding.
Yeah,
And I would assume.
absolutely. 4 of those purchase orders are all for cooperative projects that we're doing with the state.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Will they publish that, Brittany? Are they making a video? Are they making a report?
I think they're all print,
Okay.
so they'll all be in print. So we'll get copies of those, and we'll be able to supply those to anybody interested in looking at them.
Will they fly us to the UK to read it?
Sure. I think that's part of the arrangement, yes. We'll see what we can work out. Next
Okay.
round of funding.
Thanks. I make a motion for the approval of those purchase requisitions.
And I will second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
The motion has been made and seconded to approve the consideration of purchase requests as presented. All in favor of support of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Did you vote?
Aye.
Okay.
Very, very
Motion
soft
carries.
and demure
I wondered
aye.
if we had a silent abstainer there.
Since I made the motion, I better say aye.
Yeah. All right. We are pleased next for a short presentation by the Dixie Amateur Radio Club. And they are going to attempt to educate the commission and the public on the need for reliable power for repeater sites. And maybe you can explain what a repeater site is for those of us who may not fully understand that.
Okay, thank you, and Commissioners. My name is Rick Wayman. I'm the 2019 president of the Dixie Amateur Radio Club. On behalf of the club, we'd like to thank the county and commissioners for all that you've done for us in the past to help the amateur radio's operators prepare for emergency situations and to be ready to assist the county and cities at a moment's notice. We stand ready to assist in any type of emergency. We assist the cities and the county also with event communications. Our communication system is used by the city for the Rhino Rally, for the Iron Man, and many other events, including the St. George Marathon, which we've been doing for over 30 years, providing reliable communication. We own and operate 3 repeater stations. Those stations are on Webb Hill, Utah Hill, and out in Tokerville, up on, I'm not sure of the name of that large mountain right outside of Tokerville, but we have one up there. What those do is they take a small signal, for instance, from a handheld radio, and retransmit it out over a wide area on a different frequency. These are vital to our emergency communications, as these small handheld radios on their own wouldn't go maybe a quarter to half a mile. Or with our systems that have link capabilities, we can basically talk from Cedar City to the Las Vegas Speedway. And I've done that myself, so I can attest it works well. The club operates and maintains these repeaters at our own cost. There is no cost to the counties or to the cities. We're currently in the process of setting up solar and battery power backups on these repeaters. Sometimes if the power fails, the repeater just goes, bye-bye, see you later. So we'd like to have some kind of backup on these repeaters, not only for our own use, but for your use should it be needed. Now, the purchase and installation of these systems is quite immense, as I'm sure you're aware. We've received a grant from the City of St. George for $3,000 to help us out on this. But the request I have today is that the county grant us $2,500 to complete this system. This would allow us to finish the system and have it up and running as soon as possible. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Basically, Harold, our board member, our past president, had a letter that was, says you have copies of this letter that he had, which have a breakdown of what we need on this. And I totally forgot. Bob Vosper is our vice president this year. I totally forgot to do that. So, but we do thank you for your consideration, and we hope that you can see your way to assist the Amateur Radio Club in our goal to assist the county and the cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. The county is deeply appreciative of its amateur radio communication club and for the communication services that they have provided for the past 3 decades, and even further beyond that. I believe there might be some in this room that date even before that.
You.
But thank you for this request. We'll take that under advisement over this next couple of weeks, and then make our decision by placing it on a future commission agenda so that we can make a decision in a public forum. But I think that we'd hate to be outdone too bad by the city of St. George. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wanna save $500, but I don't wanna get a silver medal in this race, so, I don't know.
so anyway, thank you very much, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate you.
Item number 4, Emergency Services Report, and Sergeant Cashin.
Afternoon, Commissioners.
Afternoon.
I thought it was gonna, we had a slow start to the year, but that changed. It got warm. So, on this report, we had 10 call-outs since the last commission meeting. The volunteers donated 292 hours of their time, which brings us to 23 for the year so far. I'm going to go through some of these fairly quickly. On the 28th of February, we had a stranded motorist up General Steam. apparently that road attracts people. It was an elderly couple and their adult son. We did try to pull their vehicle out. They got it stuck again. We pulled it out. They got it stuck again. So we pulled the people out and left the vehicle. And as far as I know, it's still there. And that's been, 3 weeks now? On the 1st, we had lost hikers on Red Mountain. Basically, we went en route. I arrived, and Ivans PD had graciously located them and helped them off the mountain. So I canceled the rest of the guys. We, again, on the 4th, 3 days later, had another possible stuck hiker on Red Mountain. It's also attracting people. We got there, and the subject was not cooperative and not willing to come down as long as there was law enforcement there. We never found out exactly why. He actually took off and went down a different way. We found out about an hour later he was at a friend's house, and we just chose not to follow up on that. Then on the 6th, we had a stuck vehicle on Smithsonian Butte that actually came through a hotel. One of their guests, I guess, had called them. They were tourists from out of country and had decided to take Gooseberry after a rainstorm and found out how deep that mud is and how it sticks to everything. So all I did is I just sent 2 SAR guys to get them out. There was no way a wrecker was going to get in there either. Again, on that same day, we had an agency assist with Arizona. They requested our high angle team to help recover a person from a fatal accident. They were down a cliff. So we went down and worked with St. George Fire's technical team. The 2 teams worked together and recovered the person. 14th, we had a stranded UTV on Sand Mountain for 16-year-olds. Vehicle broke down, winds blowing, cold. And so we sent guys in to get them. And some of my people actually took one of the older brothers in to help repair it and got the machine off the mountain. On the 17th, which was Sunday, which was, I got to tell you, in the 6 years I've done this, I've never had 4 rescues in one day. But we got them on Sunday. Started at noon with an injured hiker up in Snow Canyon. She was a 14-year-old female, had dislocations. Apparently she has a medical condition that causes that, but she couldn't get out, so we had to go in and carry her out. While that was going on, there was a ATV collision out on Sand Mountain with a I guess a dune buggy or sand rail. And Hurricane Valley and my SAR went up there, located him, treated him, brought him out to the ambulance. Went home. An hour and a half later, I got another phone call from dispatch. Had a fall in Snow Canyon, and while I was on my way to that, there was a deceased individual that was found up Lavercan Creek, Tokerville. I called and asked them if they needed help. They said they did, so I sent my east side there, and I took high angle and EMS to the one in Snow Canyon. Unfortunately, this was a 13-year-old boy from Iowa. Was out there with his 11-year-old brother, 9-year-old brother, and his mother out here on vacation. And they were just climbing around on the rocks. I think he got himself too high and didn't realize he'd gotten himself in a bad spot. Mom lost sight of him, went down to the south entrance to ask for help, came back, and as they came back, one of the younger brothers said that, "Oh, there he is." Mom looked and she saw the last of his fall. He did not survive it. So it wasn't a good day. That's what I've got for you.
I wish you could leave on a higher note.
As last. My rescuers are having a hard time.
Do they have any help available to them if after some of these traumatic things that they can de-stress or?
Yeah, I've actually been talking to Tom back there. We're going to probably set up a critical incident debrief.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
And express our thanks and appreciation to all of the members. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is going to be a public hearing. And in this public hearing, we're going to invite anyone in the audience who would like to step to the mic and give their name and address the county's intention to issue lease revenue bonds for the purpose of acquiring a fire truck for use by the Rockville-Springdale Fire Protection District, and subsequently that would become and is in a transition to be part of the Hurricane Valley district, but that fire engine, that truck would be up in the Springdale area, Rockville-Springdale area. And I've asked our chief, Tom Kuhlman, if he would come up and maybe tell us a little about the amount of the grant and the bonds, and just kind of give an overview of that. And then we would invite any of the public to do that. So after Tom gives that explanation, we'll officially open the hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just for review, this fall, we were able to find a vehicle that was manufactured, was coming to the end of its demonstration life. So we were able to find an apparatus that normally would run for about $680,000 and secure that for $596,629. The Utah Permanent Community Impact Board authorized some funding for that apparatus. They authorized $205,000 in a grant, not a repayable sum. They also did a $200,000 2.5% 20-year loan for $200,000, and out of fund balance from Rockville Springdale, another approximately $192,000 will be used to secure that apparatus. Municipal Building Authority was gracious enough to secure that last fall, so we could secure the savings, almost $60,000, and this will allow us to move forward approving the bonds, payments back to the NBA.
Thank you. I'm open. I think we need to suspend the commission meeting and open the hearing, or we have the hearing without doing that?
So the hearing's part of the commission meeting, so you don't need to close the commission meeting, but you can do a motion to open the public hearing.
All right, I would
Chairman,
entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I'd like to make a motion that we open the public hearing in regards to the lease revenue bonds for the Rockville-Springdale Fire Protection District. And I guess I'll note, because we have a public hearing right after this in regards
We're going to have to.
New Harmony, so.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to open the public hearing for the intention to issue lease revenue bonds. The hearing is now open. If anybody would like to speak to it, they're welcome to step to the mic and share their thoughts with us.
Guess we can tell what public hearing everybody's coming to
Okay.
talk about.
So it appears as if no one desires to speak. I would entertain a motion to close that public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to close close the hearing. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Item number 6, we'll do in a similar fashion. It's going to be another public hearing. And the purpose of this public hearing, we're going to have our county engineer come up and talk about the special assessment area in Harmony Heights that he has done some work on, and we've I think laid quite a bit of groundwork. And Todd, if you'd come up and explain that to us, and then at the conclusion of Todd's comments, I'll again accept the motion to go into public hearing.
Thank you, Commissioners. This item is for paving Harmony Heights Road from Creekside Lane to the boundary of Harmony Heights Phase 1, then throughout the Harmony Heights Phase 1 subdivision. The proposed project would pave the roads in the Harmony Heights Phase 1 subdivision area. The total length of the roads to be paved would be 9,560 feet. The width of paving would be 24 feet. The thickness of the asphalt would be 3 inches. The road would be prepared for paving by the county road crews, and then a contractor would be hired to provide the paving. The county would then maintain the asphalt road. Engineer's estimate that I prepared for this is $381,350. It's proposed that we pay for this through a special assessment area based on residential equivalents. There are 45 total residential equivalents shown here. The ones in the green are considered full residential equivalents, which means that they're based on classification 1, those that have direct frontage onto the paved road proposed. There's also 8 half residential equivalents. Those are based on classification 2, and those are without direct access onto the frontage of the paved roads. Just to give you a little history, Special Improvement District was what used to be called, it's now called the Special Assessment Area, but used to be called Special Improvement District, was proposed back way in 2005 to pave these access roads. They were originally built as gravel roads as part of the subdivision. That SID never did happen. And then in 2017, a resident called and indicated that he felt that most residents were now in favor of paying to have the roads paved, and he would like to try again. And so the commission allowed us to prepare estimates and get it ready to see if it would work. So I prepared the preliminary cost estimates. Those estimates were sent out by that resident along with a straw poll to gauge interest in creating a special assessment area. That straw poll back in 2017 indicated that 19 respondents to the poll were in favor of proceeding and 13 were opposed. As you can tell, not everyone responded to that straw poll. In 2018, we attempted to create the special assessment area. However, we started the process too late in the year and couldn't get through all of the process and still pave while it was warm enough. And so we postponed it, and we're trying that again this year. Get it prepared and done in time to pay during the summer months. So that's just a background. Any questions?
Thank you, Todd. And Eric, again, before we start the hearing, could you maybe just outline a little bit of the legal process on the creation of a special assessment area and how that works, protests and...
You bet, Commissioner. So the way that a special assessment area works is when after you get the final price, you go in and a lien gets recorded on every home in the area. And it looks a little different than a typical lien, but for all intents and purposes, that's what it is a lien. And that can be paid off immediately, or it can be paid off over 10 years. And you would see that amount come due as part of a tax bill, so it would be included in your tax bill. So that logistically, that's how it works. The process to impose it is something that the county commission formally kicked off in January when the commissioners approved a resolution saying we're going to look into this. After they approved that resolution, notice was published, and this public hearing will be held, or is being held today. And then for the next 60 days after the public hearing is what we call a protest period. And so during that time, anybody can come in or send in a protest. And
anybody, or do they have to be a lot owner? Or
yeah, and any property owner in the proposed special assessment area. If the number of protests come in are the equivalent of 40% of the lot, with some fudging on the lots that are half assessed, they basically count for half as much on that protest. But if you hit that 40% threshold, then the county commission cannot impose a special assessment area. If any number less than that comes in, then the county commission is free to. They haven't made a final decision yet, so they come back in after the fact and make a final decision and put that on the record. And that decision, as long as the 40% threshold isn't met, can be we're going to impose this, or we're not going to impose this, or we're going to make modifications to what this would look like. They're still free to kind of deliberate and do what they feel like is in the community interest at that point. So, but again, the things to keep in mind if people are interested in filing protests, just to make sure we're clear, is that it's a 60-day window. So that starts after this meeting today. which will probably end after 5 o'clock, so tomorrow morning, and runs until May 20th. We anticipate the commissioners considering this in their May 21st commission meeting because they only have 15 days at the end of the protest period to make a final decision. So things need to be in by May 20th. And all that you need to do to have something constitute a protest is to identify the property owner's name, the parcel, or some way that we can identify the property. It can be a parcel number, it can be an address, but it just needs to be a clear way so there's not any confusion of which property the owner represents, and a signature. So that can be in the form of a signature packet. It can be in the form someone can write their own letter and say, I'd like to protest this, and send that in. But it needs to have a name, a signature, and the parcel identification to count as a protest. And if anybody has any questions, they're welcome to call Kim Hafen. They can also call us at the attorney's office, but Clerk Otter's office tends to know this stuff better than us anyway. So, any other questions, commissioners?
Does the 40% represent value? Isn't there a value weight on this as well?
That's a good question. Usually on these type of things, there is. It's any way you get to it. On a special assessment area, you pick one.
Okay.
And so what we picked on this one in the notices that have gone out is the number of parcels. Because that's how it's being assessed, is by parcel.
Thank you, Eric. Now, before we actually go into the public hearing, those of you who might be interested to speak, could you just kind of raise your hand so we have an idea of how many? Okay, I see a few hands. Why don't we allow you up to 3 minutes each and try to, thank you, and as much as possible, try to avoid repetition, but I think with the small number, we should be able to hear everyone, and we're keenly interested in what you have to say. So I'd entertain a motion now to go into the hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we open the public hearing for the intention to designate a special assessment area in the Harmony Heights subdivision.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to move into a public hearing. All in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The hearing is now open. If, when you step to the mic, if you would state your name so that we can capture that in the minutes, and you're free to approach the podium.
I'm not shy. Thank you, commissioners, for hearing us. And my name is Peter D. Rowley. I live at 1235 South 500 East, New Harmony. My wife and I have lived at this address for 19 years. We have 2 lots. We are opposed to the paving, which has divided our community. We never thought we would have been interested. We never would have been interested in buying if the road had been paved. We've got 6 horses, 2 lots, enjoy the country atmosphere, the suburban, or the rural setting, and we feel that the paving would partly destroy that lifestyle. And several weeks ago, we received a 3-page letter, and I assume you've got that. I've got extra copies if you don't have it. You've seen that letter. Now, I have a PhD, and I always thought that I was not a total idiot, maybe a little bit stupid, but with this letter, maybe I've got to rethink that concept. It has a lot of legalese in it. Your discussion is much better. It's in simple English, and some of my questions have been answered. But I do want to ask questions about that letter, because a lot of this stuff is not in writing, and I think it's critical. I assume that the letter is basically an up or down motion to either yes or no on paving, but it's in legalese where we use creation of an assessment area. They don't talk about paving, they talk about creation. I take it that's the same thing, that this is yes or no on that vote. It's not stated in the letter where we write if we're opposed. Apparently, this is a protest if we oppose, and I take it that we send it to the county clerk. And what about identifying a person to send it to? I don't want to go into general mail or junk mail or stuff like that. Should I send it to Kim Hafen? Is that make it to the attention of him? Is that the best way to do it? Is there somebody in this group that's going to do this?
Yeah, I think sending it attention to Hafen would be ideal.
Okay. And if we just say, I protest paving of Harmony Heights 1, is that all I need to say?
Yep.
Wouldn't he want to list the lots that he owns?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, well, yeah,
yeah,
that I assume, yes.
But there's no, under the law, there's no reason, you don't have to state a reason, you just have to make it clear that you protest.
Good, okay. The costs, you give an assessment down to the nearest cent, but you give nothing about the interest rate. I mean, it could be 10%. When I talked with Kim, he said it would probably be 2 or 3, but I'd like to see something like that in writing. And I mean, you could say something not to exceed X percent or something like that, but and other costs, what about cost overruns? What if the drainage needs to be redone, the ditches need to be redone, or the paving company decides to charge more? Is there any guarantee that the assessment will be at that figure that went 44 cents? What about repairs should increased runoff? I take it, I mean, you can answer me, Mr. Clark, about those kind of things, or you can put this in writing. I'd like to see it in writing because there's a lot of money at 2 lots, that's $17K. Another factor you neglected to mention, you brought it up, but the assessment is to be a lien, and that means we've got to pay it off before we sell our property. Is that right?
Yeah, and that can depend on how it's structured, on how it's passed. It can be structured in a way that it has to be paid off before a sale, or it can be structured that it has to be paid off within 10 years regardless.
The commission would actually be interested in your opinion on that.
Well, I think most of us would prefer to have it carried on if we sell the property. And I think for those people who have bought land to be an investment, and they tomorrow go to sell it, taking $8,500 right off the top is probably not what they want to do. But I'd like an answer, I'd like a decision on that one way or the other and in writing. Also, this assessment, can it be considered a tax so that we can deduct it from our, just like we do the county tax,
And
real estate tax?
I don't know the answer to that.
I think any tax question should be referred to his tax specialist.
I mean, I've got somebody I can ask, but it would be nice, again, nice to know that you asked it and you put it in writing so that we know. And you consider it paving to be an improvement. I don't. But does that mean that maybe our property taxes go up because of this? And I'd like an answer in writing to that as well. There are other things, but I've got only 3 minutes, and so I'll leave it at that. But I would request that this stuff be put in writing. The letter was confusing. It had a lot of legalese, very little simple English, which my simple mind would prefer, but I mean, you did a little bit better job. But I'd like to see it in writing, and thank you, gentlemen, for putting up with me.
Thank you,
No,
Mr.
thank you.
Rowley.
Thank you,
Thank you
Peter.
for your comments.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you briefly. My name is Richard Firmage. I'm a property owner in Harmony Heights, Phase 1, Lot 17, and had a lot for about 18 years now. Spent first 2 or 3 years sort of camping out periodically on the lot, trying to find the best place to site a house. Built a house in 2004 and have been living there ever since. Like my neighbor Pete Rowley, I am definitely opposed to the road. So rather than be redundant, I'll just sort of say I second much of what he said. I would only like to elaborate on a couple of points. I do appreciate the fact that one of my basic questions was if there are half assessments for the crosshatched properties noted, is that a half vote or is that a full vote? So again, there were things that, like Pete said, that were missing from the letter that becomes very important to those of us who are trying to make budgets work or trying to figure out how we can deal with our properties down the road. I think just more on a personal note, I'd like to say that I think that it needs to be noted that not everyone who's opposed to paving the road is opposed to the idea of change. I think that many of us are well aware that change happens whether we like it or not, and that certainly everyone in that neighborhood is entitled to their opinion of whether they would like a paved road or not. Still, it needs to be said, I think, that some of us who have been there the longest did come, as Pete said, because we valued the rural ambiance, and that we worked hard and have basically worked with livestock and animals, and it was a place that we felt was basically our dream we were trying to make real. Other people since have moved in, and many of them have purchased homes that are already built. It's a little bit different from having to build from scratch. So I guess I would just say that we sort of have roots that some of us feel are being yanked out, or that this has happened in a way that it's hard for us to come to grips with. I know, for one, I was at the earlier meeting with the county engineer and Rob Whitehead, and I left under the assumption that we would have many different meetings, many times to talk amongst ourselves as a neighborhood and amongst others before all of a sudden we would receive a letter saying there's going to be a protest and then a vote necessary. So that, like Pete said, we would like to have presented different options, you know, about what's going on, about what the use of the road is. For example, some of the crosshatch areas, those properties use that road much more than some of us who live there. And it's going to be exacerbated, it seems, if this continues. And so it seems to me that, like Pete said, I am not certain that being contiguous to the road is actually going to enhance my property values. I think it's probably they're compromised somewhat. But in any case, it seems that there should have been some discussion about the use of the road, or that if this is the only access for people, no matter whether it's the green or the crosshatched, that they basically have to pay a fair assessment. I would ask that these things, if there is a follow-up letter, generated for the final vote, that these things be made clear so that there are a number of people, for example, that aren't in the loop that I don't think were really very well apprised of what was going on within our neighborhood association in the loop. And so it seems like it's, I don't know, a very sudden and very dramatic notification that we have to deal with this right off the bat. And again, I would hope that if there is a letter, that instead of it being that some group has to protest in order to have their 40% counted, I guess I'd always assumed that there would at least be the option that we would have a straight ballot between all of the affected lots. And if 60% of those who vote approve it, fine. If 60% don't, you don't automatically grant silence to be an affirmative vote, it seems to me. So it's a little bit disturbing, and like I say, I wanted to just make my, I guess, concern noted, and I do appreciate your time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your comments. Yeah, Chair recognizes the black T-shirt, and then we will get you next.
I'm John Lee, and I have lot 6, I think, on the cul-de-sac, and I also own the lot that's in the crosshatch, 3100, actually the 3. I can step over her, these 3 here.
Okay.
So I'm getting assessed on both, actually 3, but to be able to build up here, I had to consolidate those into one. So I would hope that I wouldn't get assessed twice on what is now one piece of property down there. So if you're gonna not let me build on less than 20, I had to make it 20. I shouldn't get charged for having one lot now versus 3. So anyway, on that, the other thing is a question on the cul-de-sac. I didn't read, is the cul-de-sac gonna be paved if it goes forward?
Lower left.
Yeah, on the
Looks like
upper. Okay. And then if it doesn't go forward, as far as maintenance of the road, the county will continue to maintain it if it doesn't pass.
Yeah, we maintain it in its current state.
Okay. Hopefully better than it is today, right? Today it's pretty hammered.
I'd say pretty much in its current state. We've had a lot of tough weather, and we are in the process of trying to hire 3 additional people for our road crew because this weather that we've had really has gotten us behind. And so hopefully it'll let us stay on top of it a little bit better. But
Okay. All right, those were my questions. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to just say a few words. My name is Pete Codella. I live on Lot 4. We've owned the lot about 10 years. Built our own house there about 8 years ago. It's interesting, in the time I've lived there, I've got to see a bit more development come up around the circle and in this general area. And what's happened was that originally when we moved there 8 years ago, the road pretty well stayed in a fairly good state between treatments by the county. But as the number of people and the number of cars and motorcycles and ATVs and trailers and horse trailers have increased, the road maintenance has increased proportionately. And if you go up there today, we have about 6 regions of the road that are potholed and 2 washouts. Now, I would appreciate the road being paved, and even more than me, my sedan would really appreciate the road being paved. So gentlemen, I just urge you to give it some consideration and think about those aspects. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to please?
Yes, so Daniel Powers, I own lot 23, and I'm in favor of paving the road, and actually I would, in my opinion, the letter that was sent out was perfectly clear as far as I could tell. The big thing about the road, it's in very bad shape. It's actually a dirt road now, not a gravel road. And one thing that hasn't been mentioned is the dust on that road in the summer is horrible. I have to vacuum my house every day to keep that dust out. And I don't think that it's not healthy for people, it's not healthy for animals. And then the maintenance, trying to keep it maintained for the potholes and all that. So my opinion is paving it, eliminate all that. And also, we know that, been told that once it's paved, once we pay for it paved, the county will then maintain it from that point on, and we will not have to pay for it.
Correct.
Anyhow, so all I say, and one other point is on the straw poll, we had 60% in favor of the people who voted. Since that time, I know I've talked to a couple neighbors who would have changed their votes, would change their votes today. So it'd be more like 11 against instead of 13 at this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the special assessment area? Thank you all for those thoughts. I think they were well articulated. I would consider a motion to close the public hearing.
I move that we close the public hearing on item number 6.
And I will second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion has been made and seconded to close the hearing associated with item number 6. All in support of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Item 7. Consideration of ordinance number 2019-1132-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County near New Harmony from A20, that's agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size, zone, to C2, highway commercial, and an additional adjacent portion of property from A20, agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size, zone, to C3, general commercial, hereinafter fully described in this ordinance. Scott.
Chairman, before we go to Scott and before all the Harmony Heights people leave, Eric, would you tell them what the next steps would be going forward? We've held the public hearing. Will you enumerate for them? I'm sorry to do that to you, Chairman.
I know so now, starting tomorrow morning, we'll be in the protest period. And so anyone who's opposed to the paving can send something in to the county clerk. And again, it just needs to have a name, a signature, and identify the parcel and make it clear that it's a protest.
Okay.
And then we'll run that through May 20th. So
May 20th. Okay. Just want to make sure they knew. Thanks. Sorry.
Thank you.
So the parcels that are in discussion are located on the corner of Old Highway 91 and pretty much I-15. You can see on the attached maps. You can see on the map that the portion on the map with the aerial that is highlighted in green is they're requesting to rezone that property to C3. And then the portion south of that, that is highlighted in red, they're requesting to rezone that to C2. The Planning Commission reviewed this public hearing, or reviewed this request, held a public hearing in it regarding it. There were some residents that spoke during that meeting. All those that spoke were in favor of the requested zone change. There were comments made such as, it'll be nice if this was rezoned, if we could get more services out here. And so with that, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the zone change to the County Commission. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Scott. Questions for Scott?
So are we looking to zone the one parcel C3 and the second parcel C2, or is the green parcel already C3?
No, the green parcel would be the C3, and then everything down below that's outlined in the red would be C2.
And remind me again the different types of uses
So
that
we
that
have-
zone can allow.
Our C3 is the largest, or allows the most types of uses. C2, little less. One is general commercial, the other is highway commercial. And I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. But highway commercial, it can be gas stations.
Yes. Yeah, there's a list of permitted uses. It's a little bit different in the commercial zones. We have permitted uses and non-permitted uses. And there's a chart listed in the ordinance that has things that are not permitted. Some of them,
C2 is what you typically see along St. George Boulevard, with some segments of it that might be C3.
correct.
Well, I mean, it seems to me that as a governing body, weighing in on a zone change is the only opportunity we really have. So, for example, I could see any sort of store or gas station being a very good business, benefiting the locals. I do know that it's either here or at the next exit, you have quite a few storage units. I'm not sure that.
My concern,
I'm just
likewise.
Concerned. Just
It's a beautiful area of the county, and they do need services up there, especially when you say, I'm going to go grab a gallon of milk, and if the exit 33 doesn't have one, I can't remember what exit number that is, but
This is 42, isn't
yeah,
it?
right. But up the road, like you were saying, otherwise it's Cedar City. But such a beautiful area. Do we have a PD commercial zone?
We do. We have in our PD ordinance, it's broken down that you can have different types of uses in there, and commercial is one of them. The PD zone would be different than our standard commercial zone that we have, where the applicants would need to come in with their proposed project, and most of the information, construction drawings, that type of thing, would be more reviewed up front versus after
Right.
the zone change.
And as many acres as that is, somebody's going to probably say, the applicant's going to say, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Yes.
And they may only want to do something with a few corners or even just the C3 for now. It would just be nice to get an idea, and when they come up to the mic or tell you what their sort of plans are for it.
Uh-huh.
Give us an idea, because even though the storage units up the way are useful to those who live in that area, they weren't of any design or screening or anything years and years and years ago that augment the beauty of that corridor.
Yes. There is a representative, someone representing that group here if you would like to
Sure.
answer any question.
Oh, eventually.
Come on up.
Hi, I'm Adam Allen. I'm with Bush and Gudgel. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. So far, the discussions that we've had, they're trying to get this rezoned and market it to sell. The things that they have been approached to do out there is possibly a hotel, being right there at the Kolob exit, where it is they definitely are trying to pursue some sort of a gas station, convenience store / travel center type thing. And then the other option they're looking at, and they were hoping to possibly do, where you can ride horses in Zion. That location is to do some sort of an RV park / bring your horses and camp there, and then take your horses up into Zion. And so that's kind of what they're pursuing, but they don't know yet until they have some buyers up for it.
You counsel them on what zones to seek, knowing the uses at that time, Adam?
Yeah, we kind of looked through it, and they wanted C3 for everything, but they couldn't do an RV park type deal in C3, right? Because C3 gives them the most options. So we talked to them about doing the C2 zone, gives them the option to do still the gas station. Maybe I'm not getting close enough here.
Yeah.
Gives them the option to do a gas station and still do like an RV park, and then we just left a smaller parcel on the other side, C3. I think they felt it gave them more options.
Sure. Did the idea of PD commercial ever come up? Okay.
We didn't talk about PD commercial.
That's fine.
Be happy to answer any more questions if you have any.
Hearing no questions, Chair is open for commission discussion or motion.
I think my only concern is just that it sits right across from the Kolob Terrace. You know, so we're really talking right at the mouth of Zions. And I'm usually very quick to give approval on zone changes. Just the location and potential uses, you know, give me a little nervous. I don't know that I'm opposed to it. I'm just a little nervous about it.
You couldn't have said better the thoughts I had, and it's possible that they come back with more information or request a different zone. That's why I was asking what our provisions are for a PD. I wouldn't want to restrict them, but we have no, and I don't even like the word control. It's not even a good word for government, period. But at least we would be able to have a vision of what they see as a potential for that area. And it steers and guides them in accordance with their desires, but also with, you know, fairness to the citizenry and the fact that so many millions of people drive by there every year. And if tastefully done, I think we'd say yay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if just for some clarification, not necessarily if they decide not to pick the PD, but if they did want to just stick with the traditional commercial, just coming back with a concept plan of what they're wanting to do.
You know, we can't bind them to that because they are still wanting to market the property.
Yeah.
So they couldn't even bind a future buyer without a PD commercial zone.
Correct.
So I don't even think I'd be comfortable with, Adam's done a great job of what he understands they want, but I feel less comfortable right now giving blanket approval on something that doesn't have the vision that PD would allow. They still have, with all that acreage, a lot of leeway under PD commercial to suggest things, even if it's only on a few corners, and they say the rest of it is that, you know, equestrian RV park idea. That could expand its acreage or size or boundary, but at least the area is right up against the freeway, and the most visual could be pinned down a little more carefully.
Okay.
So does, my question, Scott, is does PD commercial, I mean, that allows them to do pretty much everything they want. They just have to come back with the concepts and get those
well,
approved.
with the PD code is, excuse me, is different versus just our standard zone. It requires a lot more up front, but you can put together things such as development agreements. Cities are more familiar with that. County hasn't done too many development agreements, but you can approve the PD subject to a bunch of exhibits and development agreement, and that would be more binding. Even if someone came in wanting to change what was, a different buyer came in and wanted to change it a little bit, they'd have to come back in and amend the PD to get that approval. So we could be looking at, you can look at architectural elements, you can look at landscaping, site design, that type of thing in the PD.
And even at the point of sale, if it was a PD commercial and it said there'd be a hotel listed, they could come in with some concept of a hotel and then not even know who is going to be the tenant. And the tenant then would come back and say, well, it's a Marriott and it's this style and it's this height and it's this color. Otherwise, right now, it could be anything, and it could be orange. It could be the one down by off the freeway here with giant yellow panels and blue glass, and you know what I mean? And I don't know, some people like that, but I lived through the 70s and I don't want to see it again. So obviously we would just have a little bit more vision of what's going to be there at one of our most beautiful interchanges in the county.
I'm not as worried about the colors as the uses.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think I went to Italy and I traveled up to this place where every house was painted a different color, and thousands of people flocked there, but anyway, the point of it is I'm just a little reluctant. This is a fairly interesting place in the county, and I'm not sure that blanket commercial is something that I'd be comfortable granting at this time. But I'm definitely interested in helping the property owners find a way to best use their property. So,
Would you like to make a motion?
do we need to give findings at this time, or there is, like, if we deny?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, findings are a good way to to clarify what you're doing. You can also just word your motion. You can say, I move, and then after you make your motion, you can behind this.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we deny ordinance 2019-1132-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County near New Harmony from A20 agriculture 20-acre minimum lot size zone to C2 highway commercial and additional adjacent portion of the property from A20 agriculture 20-acre minimum lot size zone to C3 general commercial. Anyway, hereafter described. As part of my motion, ask the property owners to consider their options with PD zone commercial.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to deny an ordinance 2019-1132-0. All in support of the motion to deny, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Scott, are you going to convey to them that, or is Adam, that the door is open? It's just.
Yeah, just.
Might need to be painted a different color?
Yeah.
Okay.
Item number 8, consideration of resolution R 2019-2444, a resolution approving agreement for the sale of manure from Washington County Regional Park to Western Rock Products. Gary, would you tell us about this? We've done this periodically.
Well,
no, I just noticed you were wearing cowboy boots, and they're really good for.
Yes.
we understand this in government, this topic.
What it is, in the past, we've had this, the compost that we produce there, sold to different individuals. The contract was up this year, so we went and got other bids. It's hard to find anybody that wants to deal in this kind of business. So we have to go out and really try to search people. There's not a lot of money in it. The people that have had it in the past have reduced what they paid us before by way down. Part of the problem is the landfill now has started to produce compost again. Before they were using some of the human waste from St. George City, but because of the problems and the smell, etc., they quit doing it. Now they're producing it again with leaves, etc. So it's put everybody in some competition. So even the landfill didn't want it. I tried to get them to take it, and they said, no, we got too much anyway. So Western Rock is prepared under, they're not excited about, but they'll take it again. And I think we need to do it. I don't have room for it. We have almost 500 horses there all the time, and all the other guests coming in. And right now, I am so stacked up with fecal material that I don't know what to do with it. So I've got to have you pass this so I can get rid of this stuff. You know, I'm being facetious, but I think they've done us a good job for many years, and we need some place to place it.
I thought they were paying us for it.
Pardon?
Are they compensating? Or are they?
Oh, they pay us for us. The 1st of January of each year, they've always been right on time with their payments.
Gary, did you say you were being facetious?
Facetious, yeah.
You're so smart.
Well, Gary, this may sound like a commercial for Western Rock, but years ago, because of the complaints of the smell and in the process of making it with the waste out of the solid waste district, the suggestion before the solid waste board, which I was on at the time, was, well, why don't you try to make it without it? Because their complaint was that they needed the the human waste material that came out of the treatment plant to accelerate how they made how quickly it broke down and it was turned into a good mulch. But they found out that they could actually make it without it in just turning it more, wetting it more, and letting it bake on its own in not much more time. Having said that, though, and having prior purchased that as well as the stuff from Western, what you provide Western and what they do there with it is a tremendous product.
It's a great product.
And
It is, no doubt about it, and people really like it. It's just that now there's the competition between
Sure.
the two, so it's hard to get rid of it for both groups.
Right. Great.
But Western Rot, the material is far better.
Thank you, Gary.
Now, there's so much you could say with us
I know,
voting to
it's
get rid of some
been a
manure,
long-
you know.
A long meeting, and he
Yeah,
brought
exactly.
some,
I think I told
brevity
Cheyenne I
to
was
it.
going to talk less. You know, I just think of that optimist and pessimist story where the little boy gets a big pile of manure and then he starts digging to find the pony in there. You know, I'm just thinking Gary. You know, Gary's such an optimist. He's probably out there looking for the pony in there. You know, I guess you had to hear the same stories I did when I was a kid. Okay, Mr. Chairman, without further babbling.
Oh no, you had to say adieu.
Adieu. I will make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2019-2444, resolution approving agreement for sale of manure from Washington County Regional Park to Western Rock Products.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded in support of resolution R 2019-2444. All in support, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 9, consideration of resolution number R 2019-2445, a resolution approving the execution of 2 agreements between Washington County, Utah, and the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, which provides for monitoring of sensitive species within the county. Cameron?
Thank you, Commissioners. So the Habitat Conservation Plan for the county was set up primarily to benefit the desert tortoise and provide conservation measures for the desert tortoise. However, we also committed to approximately $2 million in the original agreement that would go towards the benefit and recovery of other listed species in the county. And some of those include, for example, the southwestern willow flycatcher, and that's what these agreements are for. And the other part of it is for the desert tortoise monitoring. And these are just regular conservation activities that we've been participating in over the past, almost the duration of the permit for the tortoise, and then about the past 10 years for the willow flycatcher. The Habitat Conservation Advisory Committee allocates approximately $50,000 for the other species each year. And we already committed about $12,000 of those dollars towards rare plants in a previous meeting. So the other $38,000 remaining is for the southwestern willow flycatcher.
Thank you, Cameron. Any questions?
No, look good.
Comments, motions?
I'll make a motion that we approve item number 9, the resolution 2019-2445, approving the execution of 2 agreements between Washington County and the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, which provides monitoring of sensitive species with the county.
I'll second that motion, Mr.
The
Chairman.
motion has been made and seconded. All in support of the motion 2019-2445, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The resolution is passed. Item number 10, consideration of resolution number R 2019-2446, a resolution approving Zion temporary public access license agreement extension. And this is, Commissioners, is an item that has been before us twice already. The Bullock family, described in the resolution, owns the property that leads into the Zion Narrows. And this agreement would grant temporary public access for a duration through June 30th, 2019. I think, and I've had a chance to meet with the Bullocks, we're working with the federal government and its appraisers and other third parties to see if we can come up with some type of an agreement whereby the federal government could purchase or acquire that property or a permanent right-of-way. But until that happens, this action will keep that trail open. And of course, we're coming into the time of year when it's going to see an awful lot of use. I do hope they'll wait until the snow melt abates a bit before they get in there. But any questions on that? And Eric, do you have any comments?
No, I mean, it's been a pleasure to work with the Bullocks on this. They're feeling pretty frustrated because they've been in the process for several years, and the federal regulations for appraisal changed, and their appraisal, the appraised value dropped by 75% from their initial appraisal, and so they're just trying to get really creative, and the county's happy to be a partner with.
That we are.
Well, with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2019-2446, a resolution approving Zion Temporary Public Access License Agreement Extension.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded in support of Resolution R 2019-2446. All in support of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 11, consideration of resolution number R 2019-2447, a resolution appointing members from Rockville and Springdale to the Hurricane Valley Fire District's Administrative Control Board. Tom, you're kind of the chief accounting officer and the fire chief and probably the chief everything else up that way. Would you come and tell us what we're doing right here and why it's being done?
The Washington County Commission extended the boundaries of the Hurricane Valley Fire Special Services District to include Rockville and Springdale. Historically, each of the municipalities have a member of the board of that district. By virtue of extending the boundaries, it makes sense that we add a member from Rockville and one member from Springdale onto that board. Resolution will allow us to do that, and they become part of our board, and as it transitions at the end of this year into strictly the Hurricane Valley Fire District, it retains their membership.
Okay. Thank you. The names, commissioners, that have been proposed and submitted by cities, former Mayor Dan McGuire by Rockville and council member Randy Aton from the town of Springdale.
Great. Make a motion that we approve those appointees to the Rockville and Springdale Hurricane Fire District's Administrative Control Board.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in support of the resolution R 2019-2447, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Commissioners report.
Lots going on.
Lots going on.
I will comment that we did recently return from the National Association of Counties, and while there we had several days that we were fortunate to rub shoulders with commissioners and council members from all over the nation, and probably one of the highlights for me is we spent an entire day visiting with all of the members of our delegation, and that was hugely beneficial as we get so little time actually to visit with them and talk about issues that are happening in Washington County and how things in Washington, D.C. may impact Washington County.
Well, we both echo that, and especially because also, even though they have staff here, congressmen and senators like hearing it directly from us where we see it hitting the road, especially on legal sides. And so all of our visits were helpful, I think, in return, not only to make them aware, but for us to understand what they're up against, since so many things we need have to be attached to other bills, and there's compromises everywhere, and there's an interconnecting network. And if those who were from Kentucky or Minnesota or wherever don't really know what we deal with, but they want to have their causes heard, and they get lumped together in one bill. And it's great that our congressmen and senators get to understand where it is from us firsthand. I liked that. On the same token, as we talk to other commissioners around the country, their problems are just as big and their needs just as big, just different. And if you were to look at those who are dealing with in Nebraska or Iowa right now, who the potential is that their entire county is underwater, how do you deal with that? And we may, knock on wood, have a lot of water ourselves. But the idea being is that you share ideas and you learn how to solve them together, and that was very valuable.
And it makes you appreciate your own county. And
definitely.
The legislature is out of session, so we can breathe a little bit easier and try to figure out what they did to us. Read all the fine print that they passed in the last, final hours. But I'll tell you, just to kind of echo on a local state level, as we get to interact with our other counties, and I do appreciate all of them. But my interaction, especially this year as president of our association, really makes me appreciate our county and the working relationship we have with everybody. And I can't let this meeting stop without especially acknowledging that we have the Clerk Auditor of the Year, Kim Hafen. Thank you. I've been waiting to hear the little accolade. He appreciates us giving him a shout out. So.
Thank you. We are adjourned.